delighted you've joined us today, Don.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so I'm going to be doing 3 sessions with Don and just talking about his vast and very interesting career in policing. Also talking about some of the work that Don's done overseas, particularly around command training. So, Don, welcome and thank you very much for joining us today and sharing your experience. So, I know you've got about 4 decades coming up to of policing experience in one form or another, but I wondered if you could just kind of talk about your career in the round, your UK career in policing, sort of the roles you've undertaken, and perhaps a few highlights or even lowlights, if you choose, in there.
Thank you. I just hope that anyone that's taken the time to watch this can look back on their service and think back that they've had a good time. And I've had 47-ish years of having a good time and generally jumping out of bed in the morning, wanting to go to work and do good things. And I think that's a real privilege to have served and reflect back on some fun, some hard work, some dark times as well as some very bright times, but a career that gave me everything I wanted out of it when really I've spent most of it falling into good things. And it's when you reflect back on thinking, how did I end up in the Caribbean teaching command skills? It goes right back to just being at the right place at the time, but being useful, doing good things. I wasn't particularly ambitious, but I was ambitious to do a good job. And I think people saw that in me, that I was able to deliver things, and they used me in the training capacity I eventually evolved into, as well as some specialist skills, which was useful to help them deliver policing command training all over the globe, which has been, as I say, a real privilege. I kind of fell into policing. Probably a very similar. I think I hear the same story from many people. Is career planning or career sort of projection from school level was poor in the 70s, really poor. And I had an interest in the police, and so you were kind of sidelined. So, okay, Don's okay. He wants to go off into the police. Okay. And parents didn't have a great drive that way. They really didn't mind what we as children did. And so I sort of fell into policing and joined the cadets in 1975 till 1977, which was a strange couple of years, enjoyable, but I'm quite pleased that policing doesn't always go into cadets now, because I'm not sure what it achieved. It's trying to grow you up from a 16-year-old to an 18-year-old to set you up to become a police officer in the public domain, and I'm not so sure it achieved all of that for everyone. But 1977, I joined up as a police constable, did a couple of years in New Haven on the coast, part of the Brighton division as it was then, before being moved to Gatwick Airport, where following boundary changes, Sussex Police took on the airport policing, and the armed policing became an element of Sussex Police's role there. And they needed lots of people, lots of relatively young police officers who could serve there and didn't mind getting moved around. That was how we ended up there. So there were sections of armed officers trained with only a few days training on a revolver or a pistol at the time, to provide some counter-terrorist deterrent to the airport community, to the public using the airport. So that was a growing time when we saw what was a ridiculously small amount of time to learn how to use a firearm that you as a 21-year-old were then put into the public without any real tactical training or even strategic thinking around actually what they were there to achieve. It was covert originally, which was a really odd way of doing counter-terrorist policing, to have police officers hiding guns. Not particularly well either. But that grew. We saw that grow. We saw the training develop. We saw weaponry as Rome and Vienna back in '85 became a reality of terrorism on airports. So the policing response became a lot more focused, overt, almost overnight. Suddenly police officers were walking around with guns on hips and carbines on view, walking around the terminal or around about on the approach roads. A distinct change to how airports were policed, probably all over the world. Those two attacks were fundamental in professionalising armed policing responses at airports. Good times, and I wouldn't recommend anyone growing up in the police service. I think people should be encouraged to do something first to make sure that policing is the right thing for them to do, and be able to immediately go out there and talk to the public. I found that one of the most difficult challenges, not being particularly rounded as an individual, to then trying to deal with people who had domestic disputes, and there I was, a single person without any relative experience of dealing with that type of thing, trying to convince people not to beat hell out of each other and be nice to each other, and so that we could leave and hopefully that they live a long, happy life together, having been advised by Don Moyse, the 20-year-old inexperienced, naive copper. Possibly it might have happened on occasions. I wasn't too bad at talking to people, but really, really, really don't grow up in the police service. Come there grown up. The transition from armed policing to being a copper back on the street. I did 5 years at Crawley in West Sussex, a new town, which was a real good policing grounding. That's where I probably learnt my policing skills more than anywhere else. It was job to job, dealing with minor crime, some major crime, incidents every day where people needed the reassurance and presence of a police officer, and I did love that. I thoroughly enjoyed being a copper. There were better coppers around me. I learnt lots from them, and I don't think I was ever a brilliant copper. I just loved bits of it, sufficient to keep me through to become the police officer that I wanted to be. During that time, I took a sergeant's exam, and amazingly, bearing in mind I'd left school with just a handful of O-levels, the precursor to GCSEs, I got within the top 200 on my sergeant's exam. So was suddenly, as a 21-year-old, seeking a place at Bramshill for the sort of fast recruitment course they were doing there, the specialist course that it's called. I didn't get through, and I didn't expect to. I didn't really have the background and academic evidence to get me through that. But it was a thoroughly useful experience, and I did get promoted, but within house in 1987 to become a sergeant. And a sergeant at Horsham in West Sussex, a good place to work. Again, I learnt lots from really sound, good colleagues, people who, again, love the job. And I tended to follow people who love the job. It's no point following people who don't enjoy, who whinge and don't jump up in the morning to go to work to do a good service for the public. Time at Crawley, I was still, I had a part-time armed resource behind the teams that were available, again part-time. Birmingham was part-time until 1986.
There'll be lots of people see this who don't have the experience you have or the longevity. And I have a memory, I wasn't involved in it, but I just want to talk on the Gatwick armed policing thing, because am I right? I'm sure I'm right in thinking, and it's not that I'm mega young and I don't, because I was around, was you talked about the covert nature, that there were trousers with a Velcro pocket used to slip a handgun into. Am I right? That's what you're alluding to around the covert side? Because I think some of our younger colleagues who are still serving and perhaps have seen the transition into what is a very professional armed policing capability in the UK to those days of a little Velcro pocket.
It's amazing the transition in what is a relatively short space of time. Yes, there was a original I think it ended up as a 5-day course to learn how to use a revolver or a pistol. I think it started off as we had the Walther PPK, then moved on to a Ruger, the .38 weapon, and then back to pistol when we went to the SIG Sauer P226 double action weapon. So things evolved as the world evolved with efficiency and consistency in weapons manufacture and effectiveness, reliance and cost as well. But yes, we had the most odd. Even we knew it was odd then. We thought it was ridiculous. There you were as an arms Bobby, but you had a big hat on. Yeah, you look good as a British police officer as you're meeting people off flights or off the railway station and being around the airport perimeter possibly. And you had this weapon stuck in a patch pocket trousers, as they were called. So there was Velcro. You ripped them open. Actually, the draw from it was quite quick. But why would you want a deterrent that couldn't be seen? It was a strange idea. It was still that reluctance in sort of UK policing to hide the fact we had armed police officers around. But 85, that changed overnight, and the build up towards much better capabilities. And you look at what we've got now; it's fantastic. And where we've gone from that, every force doing their own different thing. Massive changes took place from 2000 onwards, so that the training that anyone got as an armed officer was pretty much the same, whether you're working on Shetland, North Wales, Kent, or in fact, as we see in the Caribbean and with Caribbean forces following the training curriculum that the UK forces have as well. So that almost anywhere they're talking the same language, doing the same thing, and probably looking very similar as well with a similar kit. You'll do a 12-week initial course now, not 5 days and a later tactical course of 2 days and then a carbine course of 2 days as we did then. You do a 12-week course because you've got from that first day. In fact, we had this somebody falling off the end of a 12-week course, and their first duty, they're at Borough Market supporting the response from the Metropolitan and City and BTP colleagues up there to the atrocious attacks. And there they were forming a search capability into buildings on their first day from a 12-week course. So a 12-week course had to set people up to succeed on day one of their response. Phenomenal. We're in a good place with that. We've got really good people doing difficult jobs and still trying to be a copper as well and look like a copper, but with that massive capability beyond our standard police officer roles that serve the public so well still. How I got into that was that when I was at Horsham as a skipper, I've always been mad on fitness, but was identified to help keep the AFOs, the authorised firearms officers, the part-time fit, because they didn't have a PTI allocated that could actually perform that role. So I was sent on a course. It was 3 months up in Harrogate, following a PTI self-defence course that taught us from being a Aikido, so Tomiko Aikido, gymnastics, how to develop people's fitness, speed, strength, with some of the best minds, the Olympic coaches, the England rugby physio, swimming champions who now teach from around the country, teaching us how to get the best out of people. And that's when I realised that actually doing exactly that, trying to get the best out of people, helping people reach their full potential, became something that just took over my everything, and I wanted to help. I wanted to help people get better, but to do that within a career that I enjoyed as well. So stayed in policing, became a PTI, but not long after that, got identified to take on a sergeant within the what was then the weapons training unit. It's now the TFU, the Tactical Firearms Unit, would be the name now, and become the skipper responsible for the training, delivery, and the management of a couple of trainers. And that was initially at Gatwick. Then I went up to the full-time team at Sussex to do all the response work for 5 years around the county, and then back to Gatwick again, where we trebled the team size, professionalised the learning that we could deliver through the training development of those instructors. So it just wasn't an instructor course. They then did teacher training programs for adult education that took us into a totally different dimension of being able to really get people to achieve what they wanted to do. And that was a good time to be around, because we were making changes in how people saw us, but how we helped people as well. So that was how.
Just to jump in, so that PTI course was a career and life changer for you. I'm guessing,
Yes.
because the way you described it was almost that was the pivot in your career, certainly. And I know you well, and I'm very proud to know you well. But you've dedicated yourself, and I've been on the end of your training. So, but you've dedicated yourself, and the way you described it, I found quite heartwarming and fascinating. That desire to take a person and make them the best version of themselves, and I've seen you do that elsewhere. So I didn't know that, even though I know you well. And that was that pivotal moment in your career. And can you just touch on, because I know you did some of this, how that then transcended outside of Sussex and indeed Surrey into some national work as well around firearms and firearms command?
So I became a full-time trainer in my operational time as a specialist firearms officer. We did some training, and we did some operations that saved people's lives. It was a great time to be doing that, when we were suddenly changed from being a part-time unit. We were a full-time unit, and actually delivering good armed practice to support policing and the public. It was good times. In 1998 to 1999, 3 particular incidents across the country, including one in Sussex, one in Kent, one in the Mets. There was a realisation that we were failing in some key areas of our operations. So the firearms officers at the end might be doing some good tactical work, but actually some of the strategic thinking, the intelligence gathering beforehand was missing. The common tactics weren't applied, and how we prioritised who we cared about most. In one of the jobs in particular, a person sadly died when the police officers were outside, and the thinking was, we can't go in, we might be putting our police officers at danger. And sadly, somebody was left bleeding for too long and died. But 3 particular incidents, all resulting in the death of people, changed how we thought and how we responded and how we trained those people to think and to respond. So that was that major change that you were alluding to. As a consequence, what was then the manual of guidance, now the authorised professional practice in police use of firearms and less lethal weapons, introduced command structure. It had never been actually written out exactly what the command structure was and what each of the roles and responsibilities was. Brilliant piece of work there. Fantastic. It absolutely clarified each level of strategic, tactical and operational command into what people should be doing, who they're responding to, and who they're briefing out to and tactically controlling. So much clarity on that. Brilliant. And then with that came the decision model, what was first of all the conflict management model, and that evolved into the NDM, the national decision model. Again, just using how humans think to develop that, so that we can get, when we've got time to spin the model, to actually gather information and intelligence, make sense of it, put it into some threat and risk assessment, set us prioritised working strategy, check on our piles and policy, we do something, and come up with a tactical plan that delivers, is so human in us, but written out, it's so defendable, and we get things right. We do a much better job. And whilst we haven't got a magic wand and we can't save everyone's life, we do a damn good job of trying to do that. And when we can be at the right place, we do the right things. And so in the years since then, the policing world has changed to this, say, 12 weeks of training. It's a norm now for people to go out. So we've got good kit, good people, well commanded, suitably advised, and supported with training that makes sure that people are operationally practicing, are getting trained and refreshed each year, reaccredited every 5 years, and all of that puts us into place where actually the UK policing is in a much better place. And I got involved in that, which was a long answer to the question. Sorry, Trevor. That I got involved in the delivery of the training for our commanders, and that again grew so that I was then asked to support regional training where we were taking on the both strategic and tactical and operational and tactical advisor training. So Sussex started working with Kent to deliver that. I was opted in to actually help support that on the tactical level to deliver it. Well, that was good fun. That was so satisfying to see again police commanders leaving a course having much more clarity over what their job is, how they're going to deliver it, and who those and what the capabilities of the people that can do it. So that's how I got into that, and it grew from there. So we Sussex worked with Kent very successfully for many years. Kent had set it up, but Sussex started to support it, and eventually Kent had to withdraw from that because of a change of regions. Sussex took on the delivery of the strategic firearms course, which was at that time called the Gold Firearms course, and delivered quite a good product. That eventually went to the College of Policing, as it rightly should be, in a place centrally to deliver that. But we continued to deliver such training. Even when we joined up with Surrey Police and Sussex Police became a collaborated entity, we carried on with that with good people from Surrey as well to deliver. It was good quality. It wasn't particularly clever. It was done with care and with passion by really good people. One of which, of course, was yourself, but there were many other people that helped drive that. So that the training actually developed nationally to deliver those good jobs. Now, back in mid-2000s, we had the opportunity to go out to Trinidad and Tobago, where we ran a series of strategic firearms commanders courses, so the gold level courses, to the commanders of Trinidad and Tobago Police Force and the serious and organised crime unit that they had out there at the time, a unit called the South, which I understand now has been wound down through a change of government. But at that time, that probably still are facing phenomenal risks every day, and just were thirsty for how can we make ourselves better able to combat that. And that's what we did out there. So that was my first opportunity to be abroad teaching. I've been abroad with the service to a number of different places over the years. Quite just by being in the right place at the right time and having the skill set and never saying no. That's a key factor. Never say no.
Don, I've taken advantage of the fact you never say no several times when I've asked you to do things. What's been fascinating for me is having got to know you so well. There's things I found out today, and it's really fascinating. But I just want to draw this session to a close. I just want to say there's a couple of things I just wanted to say. Is your level of passion to this is still so evident, and I've always been amazed by that. I was on the receiving end, as you say, of the drive to make this change, and I came into firearms as someone who hadn't been around firearms, and all the anxiety that can bring, when you're going into a command role where you'll be making difficult decisions where actually there's risk and there's threat to people involved in it. But you must be immensely proud of the impact you've done, because we've gone from a handgun in a Velcro pocket in trousers, as you say, to a country, and you played a big part in that, but certainly I can speak to our old Fort Sussex, who deliver a really high quality policing support to general policing and keeping the public safe. And you were by chance, I suppose, but nonetheless there on that whole journey. So you must be immensely proud of it. And this is a good link because I want to draw this session to a close, because when we talk again, I just want to talk around expanding on that overseas element, and how you translated all that UK experience into delivering the same to our overseas colleagues, our British overseas territories in particular, but you also mentioned Trinidad. So, Don, I just want to say thanks for this session. I thought I knew you well, and I found out lots today, and I'm sure people are going to find it really interesting. So I just want to say thanks for telling us about your vast career. And then in the next section, we'll just expand on to your overseas experience and some of the challenges, some of the enjoyment, but particularly I will want to dig into how that transition is made from that UK into a different culture, a different threat. You spoke about that in Trinidad. But for now, Don, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk shortly just on section 2, and we'll start talking about how Don went overseas and delivered some stuff and made some change. So thanks, Don. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Trevor. Thanks very much.